Hi,
Hello.
I am just realizing that I don't have a pair of headphones. Is that something that's necessary?
No, I do it just because I have to, for editing purposes. I need to be able to hear everything.
Got it.
don't
Just want
don't
to make sure.
yeah,
I was
don't
like
don't sweat it.
starting to log in. I was frantically looking around. I was like, where are my headphones? Because like this is my office right now. I don't know where anything is.
Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. I'll be honest, the state of mind is not so great either. So you're in good company, man. Um, so again, my apologies for sending the notes so late. I was up till the wee hours yesterday,
It's not a problem.
finishing editing. So I appreciate your flexibility there. You received the notes.
Yes,
You
I'm
have a
looking at
chance
them.
to. Did you have a chance to skim through them real quick?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I remember this episode. This was one that I thought was really like one of those I love episodes where the captain's put in an impossible position and
Yes.
whatever decision he makes is wrong.
Yeah. Those are always, those moral dilemmas are always fun to watch. Those, and I'm a big fan of bottle episodes as well.
Hmm.
Where one location, usually one actor, maybe two, and that's it for the duration. It's a lot of fun. So I do this with everybody. Have you done a podcast before?
Not at all. So I'm actually a little bit nervous. I have no idea what I'm about to be getting into. So
It's not a problem
I
at
listened to a
all.
couple episodes, so I have an idea, but I'm also just like I don't know if I can talk that much about it, but then I also know that once I start talking about it, I don't shut up. So
No, hey, honestly, that's great. Basically, I mean, if you've heard an episode, you kind of know what the end product will be. I always describe the show to people as, imagine if two nerds met in a bar, and what would they talk about? They'd probably find the one franchise that they connect on, but they'd also talk about all the things surrounding that. So we've our starting point is always Star Trek, but we've discussed everything from grandmother's apple pie recipe to, is sleep a form of time travel, to what's your favorite Pixar movie. Like it's
okay,
it's all over the place, but I'll steer us back to Star Trek. And I may ask you, well, let's run through the script one time, just
got
so
it.
you kind of know, and clear up any potential questions you may have. So anything that you see that says SFX, that's a
Mhm.
sound effect.
Okay,
You're not going to hear that. That's going to be added in post.
got it.
So it's just going to be you and me talking. That's pretty much the only thing you'll hear.
Okay,
But we'll get through the Klingon word of the day. I'll do my greeting, and then the doorbell, and then your greeting. And it's Captain Dan O'Connor. Yay! I always do Muppet hands because I feel like everybody deserves to be introed by Kermit the Frog at least once. Um, do you mind the Captain Dan? I mean, it's your brand, so
you can call me Captain Dan, just Dan, whatever, or Daniel. Doesn't really matter. I'm not Danny. That's my partner's name. So
gotcha. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. So it'll probably just be Dan most of the time, or like I said, because I do want to solidify in the listener's mind your brand, which is Captain Dan. So,
yeah,
so we'll do that where appropriate, and and we'll just play it by ear. So where it says chat, that's basically us just having, sort of a conversation. I'll throw you some softball questions of, earliest Star Trek memory, favorite show, favorite captain, favorite character, any of all of that stuff is game. So, and then I'll kind of steer us towards Enterprise. And do you recall the first time you watched Enterprise? What was, your initial thoughts, without getting, into spoilers? What were your initial thoughts about this episode?
mm,
And then once we've kind of talked about sort of our cursory thoughts, I'll go, let's get to this week's recap, and then I'll blow through the recap. I'll just read it real quick.
mhm.
And then we've got another chat here, and that's now we can discuss it in a little more detail. We've given the spoiler warning, so we're free to discuss whatever.
Mm.
Then we get to the baseball card stats, the who do we blame section, and I'll go through those. These are pretty short compared to like the last 2 or 3 that I've done. Then we'll get to final thoughts and is this essential viewing? The question, is this essential viewing? In fact, let me actually put that, right there. There we go. Sorry.
Spoiler on my answer for that question, I'm going to say yes. Because this is a turning point for Captain Archer's character. So
right, yeah. So basically that is this essential viewing? I think a lot of people like to look at that as a simple yes or no, but I mean, Trekkers all know, like, there is no question that's a simple yes or no. It's so basically like in the frame of the overall narrative, is it, or is there an element of like, if you're following the journey of Jonathan Archer, is this one that you can't miss? So, and we can discuss back and forth that, and then I'll get into so after that is final thoughts. Basically, your final thoughts about the episode, final thoughts about the series as a whole, final thoughts about the franchise as a whole, final thoughts about your experience on the podcast, your very first podcast. I'm incredibly honored, so thank you. And then
new to all of this, I kind of just started all of this about, I've always been super into Star Trek, but just started dipping my toe into trying to be a member of the community only about a year ago. So, man,
that's awesome. And we'll get into all that, but that is really cool. I like the idea of it's a community, but at the same time, if you want to be part of the community, all you have to do is say, I'm part of the community. It seems to be very open and very welcoming of like, one of us. Okay. Welcome. Anyway, so we'll cover final thoughts. I'll do the preview for next week. And then after the next week preview is your time to plug, promote, the store, your products. I always say, hey, anything and everything, as long as it's not a hate group. So, and if you run out of things to say, but you're passionate about a charity or something like that, throw that in there too. Anything that you want to bring attention to, in terms of a business or a project that you're on, or a charity, or something that you just want to give some attention to, I'm all for it. The only thing I ask is that if you have a specific place that you'd like people to reach you directly, or reach the business directly, save that for last. Excuse me. Save that for last, because you'll do yours and then I'll do mine, and that's the end of the show. So, are there any a couple more things I like to ask folks before we get rolling, just because I want to make sure you have the best experience on the show. How are we for time? Do you have a hard out at
Nope. I'm on summer break, so
oh great.
Actually, perfect timing that we did the May instead of the June option, because my summer classes start June 3rd.
Oh, so yeah. Well, yeah.
As of right now, I've got nothing but time.
No, that's great. That's great to hear. Are there any no-fly zones? Is there anything that you don't want to discuss on the show? If it's like, hey, don't ask about my parents or whatever, that's fine. But I'd rather ask now so I know.
Typically, I am an open book on just about everything. In person, I have no red lines for topics of discussion.
Okay.
On my online persona I'm building, I do my best to avoid political discussion as much as I can.
Sounds
just
great.
Because I don't want to draw any lines with people that might follow me. They're like, well, I'm not going to follow him now because he believes this. It's so dividing these days.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I make enemies on both sides because I identify as a true centrist, so which means both sides hate me.
Oh, okay. Well, that term that you used, I'm not familiar with it. The true, what is it?
A true centrist.
Centrist?
Right in the middle. So
the one who is in the center. Okay.
Either way. I don't lean either way. It's like I not fully independent, but it's just like I don't like any of them.
Yeah, and you know what? That's fair. I think the most we've discussed politics at all is just kind of like, well, so and so is an idiot, right? That's about it. And honestly, that's more indicative of my level of knowledge regarding the subject. So I'm just like,
it is a subject I like
so Star Trek.
Yeah. It is a subject I do like discuss, but I try not to talk about it in my online personas just because I don't want to alienate anyone who might be interested in following my content.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, you're out there trying to sell stuff. Like, it's a business. You want to, you want to be able to protect your venture there. So if we do get to something that that you're not comfortable with or anything along those lines, you can give me a, just let's move, or even just say, actually, let's move on. And I can edit that out and, and it'll be nice and smooth. So speaking of signals, if you need bathroom break, water break, emergency phone call, something like that, you can just give me a timeout and, and I can edit around that as well. Cursing, I'm a stand-up comedian, so I don't have a problem with cursing. However, I want the show to be as accessible for folks as possible. So if it slips, don't worry about it. But just don't let it be every other word out of your mouth. I've had folks do that before, and I have to go, hey, I have to edit this thing, so stop making more work for me.
You're making it hard. No,
exactly.
I try my best. I was in the military, so I do got a bit of a sailor's mouth, but when I'm in situations that call for it, I do my best to rein it in.
Nice. Yeah, so I use the red alert siren to bleep curse words, mostly because I think that's funny. But yeah, so any other questions or anything before we get started?
None that come to mind. If I think of one, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and again, you can just give me a timeout and say, hey, I don't really know the whatever, and we'll address it, and then we'll go back into it and we'll move on. It's not a big deal. All righty. Think before I do my radio announcer voice. All right. Let's rock.
Incoming transmission.
The Klingon word of the day is Batolf.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile. Live long and prosper.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
And welcome to the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer, comedian, Mr. Todd A. Davis. Well, folks, today's guest has really taken me a long time to pin down. Coming to us from OHIO, it's Captain Dan O'Connor. Captain Dan.
Hi, how's it going?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. So I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit and let folks know that this is your first podcast recording. Are you any sort of apprehensions? Is there a thought of like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? This guy is crazy.
Oh, I'm a little nervous. Just starting out into the becoming part of the community with Star Trek. I've been into it ever since I was a kid, and I have a little bit of apprehension being on the podcast for the first time because, just a little bit of nervousness thinking I'm going to out myself as someone who actually doesn't know anything about Star Trek, even though it's something I can't stop talking about.
Dude, I got to tell you, like every time I get on an episode with somebody and if they bust out the smallest bit of Star Trek knowledge, I feel like an absolute dum-dum. I'm just like, all right, where's my cone-shaped hat? Let me sit on this stool. No, you're in good hands, man. We talked a little bit before we got rolling that the Star Trek community, much like a lot of fan communities, actually very open, very warm, welcoming, for the most part. I mean, there's a couple of corners that aren't so friendly,
Our
but
fandom doesn't have them, but I would say in general, it's a very welcoming place.
yeah. And so, look, man, my requirements for being on this show is that you kind of like Star Trek. So you're in good hands. We're gonna have a good time. I've been excited to meet you and talk with you because I think you were one of the first folks I found and started following, like as I was setting things up. Oh gosh, like a year and a half ago. It just dawned on me we've been doing this show for a minute.
You kind of remember when you started following me. I think I was still, well, I'm still pretty small, but I was half the size I was now. Back then, I was still very up on checking out every single person that followed me on my Instagram, and I remember checking out a page that you had just set up was pretty cool, and you only had about, I think, 30 or 40 followers at that point. So
wow.
it's been interesting watching the progress of how honestly both of our little endeavors have been going.
Yeah, it's so fun because I mean, and the saying is absolutely true. Time flies when you're having fun or when you keep yourself busy. I know this show keeps me incredibly busy, but you've got a great venture, and I wanted to ask you just a little bit about it. We'll plug it at length here at the end, but I did want to ask, like, why pins? You make us. Let me back up a little bit. You make Star Trek lapel pins.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't want to oversip. I mean, is that accurate, or am I at least in the ballpark, or is it a little more detailed than that?
Pins. Yeah, they are lapel pins. My character pins are hard enamel pins, and my starship pins are sculpted metal pins.
Oh, and they look amazing. Now, are you the designer, you the sculptor, or like how does that work?
I design them, so I take some reference art of who I want to draw or what I want to draw, and I sketch it all out, all the different possible angles you can view it from, and I send it off to a company that I work with who then creates them for me.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. I imagine if they're not independent, they're probably geared towards the independent artist, right?
Yes, I think they're a relatively small company. I found them actually through my partner, who also makes pins, but he does fantasy pins.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
when I've wanted to start a small business my whole life, and everyone's always telling me, you never stop talking about Star Trek, you should do something with that. And I was like, oh well, this looks like interesting, a relatively low risk venture to start for my first business, and I'm super into Star Trek, and these pins are cool, so I put them together and I came up with Captain Dan pins.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned something, and of course I referred to you as, of course, Captain Dan. That's how I know you. But where does the Captain Dan, where did that come from? What made you think, oh, you know what, I'm gonna put Captain in front of my name? Why not? Is it strictly the Star Trek thing, or is there a story behind that?
Strictly Star Trek, I would say.
Nice.
I was in the military for a time, but I was enlisted, so I never did become an officer.
Oh.
Well,
thank you for your service. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. That's what I was told that we're supposed to say now. However, if I ever did become an officer, I probably wouldn't have made it to captain, because I would have been required to stay at lieutenant, so I could forever be Lieutenant Dan.
That is commitment to the bit, sir. That is, I am, my hat's off to you. That is wonderful. As a movie nerd as well, that's great. So do you have an earliest Star Trek memory, or do you remember being introduced to Star Trek? And, is there a story behind that?
My earliest memories were watching the original series on public access TV with my dad when I was a little kid. It was what we would do on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I was always really into it as a kid, but when I became an adult and I moved out and I got my first streaming service, because this was back when Star Trek was still on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I was stationed in Japan. I was feeling a little bit homesick, so I went on Netflix and I started watching the original series. I watched it again, first episode to last. And when I was finished, I was just I clicked out of it. I noticed that there was more Star Trek series that came out. I didn't know about them.
Really?
So no, and so I just started watching them. I didn't know where to start, so I just looked up when they were released. So I was like, okay, so TNG's next generation. I started watching that and I just was enamored with it. I was just like, this is so cool. This world that they're building. And then I was like, that was awesome. Then my next one was Voyager, and which to this day is my favorite series. It's going to be very hard to top Voyager, but
Nice. Yeah.
just remember watching it and thinking they were doing something really cool where I had never seen this before, where series were starting to overlap with each other and they were sharing canon from other series and just building this entire universe of what the 23rd and 24th century is going to look like.
Exactly.
And I fell in love with it, and now I can't stop talking about it.
No, that's so great. And to be honest, that's such a pure way to experience Trek for the first time. You know, you have that fond memory of TOS specifically, and then discover the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. Like it's so great.
An obsession.
Yeah. No, well, you know, and I've talked with a lot of folks who, you know, my introduction was TNG, which I consider myself a child of TNG. But you know, you get folks who are just like, the first thing I ever watched was Deep Space Nine, or the first thing I ever watched was Voyager. I was like, wow, that's a interesting place to start. Or the Kelvin timeline. We get a lot of folks who are just like, oh, I saw that J.J. Abrams movie back in 2009 and I was hooked. Okay, yeah, you can start there too.
Opinion, I actually like the J.J. movies. So
hey, you know what? They're not bad. Like it's Star Trek, so it's fun either way. Nobody sets out to make anything that isn't good. And to be honest, J.J. Abrams is a pretty accomplished director, so he's not a dummy. He knows what he's doing.
They're definitely not like, they're not what I would call, like, at their core a Star Trek movie. It's like Star Trek, but if it was action.
Okay, that's
But
fair.
I really like it, and the fact that it was an alternate universe too, which I always love exploring alternate universes.
Yes.
Mirror universe episodes and seasons are some of my favorite.
Yeah.
And then of all of them, though, I actually really like the second one, even though according to even people who like the J.J. Abrams movies, Into Darkness apparently is the worst one. I think it's the best one.
Really? Okay. You know, normally I wouldn't, you know, dive into a different thing than we're talking about, than we're here to talk about. But I gotta know, like, take me through, like, what is it about Into Darkness as opposed to 2009 or beyond? What sets that apart as being better than the other two?
Well, for one, has Benedict Cumberbatch in it, one of the best actors ever.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He's awesome.
I actually preferred his portrayal of Khan over the original series Khan. I thought he was a lot more insidious, a lot more menacing looking, while the Khan that they showed us in TOS, he was supposed to be this super evolved, better than everybody human, and he's looks like a caveman.
Yeah, the design, you know, back then, mid 60s was doesn't necessarily age well. But yeah, you know, when Khan talks about walking over the cold corpses, you know, man, that's woo. He's really good. Yeah,
he's awesome. Whatever character he plays.
But you know, far departure from TOS and from the Kelvin universe, even though it's at the end of the TNG era, is Enterprise. So do you have an earliest memory of watching Enterprise? Because you know, here as we go along, I'm starting to get a bunch of different variations on like how folks were introduced to Enterprise and what it means to them. And especially now with the show being 20 years old, it watches very differently. What was your first experience with Enterprise?
Oh, well, it was probably my same experience with all the others.
Okay.
Except for TOS. So I started watching it and I got hooked, and I have a bit of a problem with streaming. So
Oh, okay.
when I find a series, an entire season is up and it's all at my fingertips, I can't stop watching it. I don't care if I need to sleep. I have a 14-hour shift ahead of me the next day. Slept 2 hours beforehand. I watched 6 episodes that night
Yeah.
because I'll watch it till I fall asleep because I can't stay awake anymore.
Yes.
But
And it's honestly, I'm right there with you. In fact, I was just talking with my wife and we were talking about, we've got a couple things to catch up on, Strange New Worlds, and we're watching The Offer, which is about, I don't know if you've seen ads for that, but it's about it's the behind the scenes stuff of making The Godfather. And it's awesome. It's real, even if you're not a Godfather fan, like it's really good. Halo, I've been watching Halo. I'm sorry, say it again.
I love the behind the scene shows where they're like, this is how we did it.
Yeah. Well, it's a drama. I mean, so it's the story of the producers and
Okay.
director. Yeah. It's
Okay,
oh man, and they've got some really great actors just killing it in that show. It's really good. But yeah, I'm watching Halo. The wife has no interest in Halo, but we're also doing Obi-Wan. I have yet to push play on Obi-Wan, and it's I've been looking forward to it, but as I see things more, I don't know. Mandalorian did so well, and Book of Boba Fett was great too. I don't know if you've watched those. Are you a fan of that?
I haven't watched them just yet. I do plan on watching them. I'm also one of those rare people who also like Star Wars. I'm not one that's either or. I do like Star Trek better. I like, have you ever seen the College Humor skit Star Wars versus Star Trek?
No, I love their stuff though.
It's a little animated skit, and I think it really sums up perfectly the divide between Star Wars and Star Trek fans. And I like the jokes on both sides.
Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, I thought it was a live action thing, but if it's the animated one that I'm thinking of, yeah, I have seen that. It's hilarious.
Oh my god, this light side, dark side nonsense. Star Wars is philosophy for children.
Oh yeah, no, they come up with some great stuff. But yeah, in terms of Enterprise, what were your initial thoughts about watching this episode? Because this one's kind of unique in that it's an unofficial two-parter with last week's episode, Zadi Prime, and I'm just curious as to what were your initial thoughts, dropping in right here so late in season 3.
Oh, I think this is a very important episode in Enterprise, which I also really like Enterprise. I know it gets a lot of hate. I agree that it didn't get the ending it deserved. But
Right. Yeah.
it had so much potential, but it got canned too early. But this particular episode, I think, is probably the best episode in season 3 because
Really?
like, without getting into spoilers, I love episodes where the captain gets put in an impossible position where
Yes.
whatever decision he makes is wrong.
Uh-huh.
And you learn a lot about the captain's personality based on what decision he makes.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
think this is probably one of the most important episodes for Captain Archer's character building.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the head, man. It's absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I love, we talked a little bit before we started rolling about, I really enjoy the moral dilemmas, trying to make the impossible decision, like you just said. I'm also a big fan of bottle episodes. And while this is definitely not a bottle episode, Enterprise has some good ones, Shuttle Pod 1 and Doctor's Orders. Both of those follow different characters, and usually with those bottle episodes is you really start to peel those characters open and really get down deep on a lot of them and
Exactly.
see what makes them tick. It's a neat story structure, and I really enjoy it. But before we get any further on this week's episode, let's get to this week's recap.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
On Star Trek Enterprise, only 6 episodes are left to the end of their mission or the end of Earth. Wednesday, the Enterprise is a shattered and burning wreck. No weapons, no power. And now for the bad news.
Even though Enterprise is severely damaged, the Xindi unexpectedly break off the attack from last week. Reptilian Commander Nolan is mad, and the other Xindi begin to doubt that the Earth ship represents the same threat they previously imagined. The primate Degra argues that the evidence of interference in Xindi culture provided earlier by Archer must be discussed first. Dolan reluctantly agrees, and the Aquatics send Archer back to Enterprise in an escape pod.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
He arrives to find the ship in disarray, with at least 14 crew members dead. The ship needs a replacement warp coil in order to travel at warp. Although adrift, Enterprise encounters an Illyrian spacecraft, damaged by the gravimetric energy generated by the Delphic expanse. Archer attempts to trade with the captain, but he refuses to give up their sole warp coil.
Meanwhile,
The Xindi Council communicate with the Guardian, the prophetic time traveler of the transdimensional sphere builder species. The Guardian admits to transporting the reptilians into the past, see our episode 56, and encouraging reptilians and insectoids to remain on the council. Upset, Degra insists on further examining Archer's evidence regarding the Guardian sphere builder connection.
meanwhile,
Hoshi discovers a message from Degra hidden aboard the Xindi escape pod, asking Enterprise to rendezvous with him in a few days at a nearby location. Unable to travel at warp, Archer is forced to attack the Illyrian vessel and steal their coil, although this will leave them unable to reach home for 3 years. Archer's decision is met with an angry outburst from T'Pol, but Archer justifies his actions as a necessity of war, saving billions of lives while making the Illyrians' journey more perilous. The episode reveals T'Pol hid a 3-month addiction to Trillium D, which she finally admits it to Doc Phlox.
sucks.
Unusually for a Vulcan, it has left her experiencing emotions. Despite further damage, the raid is successful, and Enterprise heads for the covert rendezvous.
Great.
So, in looking at the show's structure, and I've analyzed it with this bit of TV production jargon, the A plot and the B plot. And I feel like the A plot is them dealing with the Xindi and Degra and all of that. And because, again, this is actually kind of a part 2 to last week. And I feel like the A plot and B plot of this episode are severely out of balance, because with what's happening in the B plot to Paul and her addiction, it's almost dismissed entirely. It's such a footnote. I mean, really, usually A plot and B plot are pretty well balanced, but yeah, this seems to get it's not that the Xindi war isn't important. We've been watching this thing all season, and now here comes T'Pol with a very unique circumstance in that she's snorting this rock, and she's developed this addiction. Which plot do you think carries more weight in this episode? The A plot, and all the Xindi stuff, or the B plot, T'Pol and her addiction?
See, that's a hard one. I think it depends on which character you're following throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're following just Captain Archer and the formation of how, basically the point of the show, how the Federation came to be, I would say the A plot is probably more important in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're interested in the side characters, this really is a very good episode for T'Pol too. It's just, I will agree, it's weird how they got smashed together. They feel like they should both be A plots for what episode they're in, and they're competing with each other. But it was the early 2000s, and this was the first time that they did serialize Star Trek. So there was some figuring out to do as far as writing episodes, because up until this point, Star Trek was very episodic.
Yeah. Yeah.
with the exception of parts of DS9. They had, what I like about DS9 was that they had a serialized background story with episodic individual stories.
Yeah, the Deep Space Nine really seemed to blend those two narrative structures very well, because I look at things like comic books where, oh, let's read Batman. Well, Batman's been running since the 30s, like but it's not just like one big story, it's smaller stories. Yes, there is an overarching main plot. It's Bruce Wayne, his parents were murdered, and so he's out to protect the city, and that's the story of it. But yeah, being able to do two different story structures, having individual plots within an overarching narrative is pretty impressive on Deep Space Nine's part. And it makes me question, like, then why did Enterprise suffer from so many seeming script issues? I mean, were the other people not wanting to work again on Star Trek? Like, or did they get other gigs? I mean, could you not find some writers to that had a more stylized, or I shouldn't say stylized, but commitment to making this narrative progress the way it probably should have? And again, because Enterprise started at a very particular place in history, that means that if it's going to be a true science fiction procedural, then we're definitely going to discuss the topics of the day. And if you are going to take that route, you better get cracking, and I wonder why it took 2 seasons for them to, get to some of that stuff. Maybe, and again, the show was probably in production long before we ever saw a frame on TV. But I think there's not a lot of humor. I kind of wish that they, they're in Hollywood. Go over to the Comedy Store, poke your head in the door and go, hey, we need some writers for Star Trek. You will have more than you know what to do with.
I think that's where Enterprise's problems crop up. Overall, I thought it was a good series and it had great potential, and the concept was amazing, if not poorly executed in some ways.
Yeah.
Because again, I think this was Star Trek's first crack at a truly serialized TV series instead of the typical episodic nature of Star Trek. And maybe I think part of the problem with the show is they probably hired wrong writers for the script.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, here we are 20 years after the fact. There's not much we can do about it now. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We've been going through this whole show, and I've been praising as much as I can the writers, and you got some wonderful character actors who come in for bit parts. Your main cast is not bad. You've got some star power with Bakula, and then you've got a lot of just jobbers, just getting out there, getting their feet wet, or they're into their career or early on in their career. And here they wore a Starfleet uniform, which means they never have to work again if they don't want to. But yeah, I think Enterprise, like the other series, it doesn't knock it out of the park from the word go. Like TNG took a little time to find its feet. DS9, Voyager, Discovery, New Trek, all the New Trek shows had that issue too. It takes a second to find your footing, and then you can get going.
Yep, just like as Jonathan Frakes likes to say, it takes a while for a series to grow the beard.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That's a great quote. I like that.
I forget his name. I feel so bad now.
No, man. That's, listen, there's a reason I get my anniversaries tattooed on my arm. Terrible memory. But yeah, I mean, and Jonathan Frakes, such a good actor, great director.
Awesome. every episode he directs on the new series, he's usually my favorite ones.
Yeah, he really shows up. When he shows up, he crushes it, man.
And I think he's in every series now except for TOS, only because he wasn't part of the series at that point, obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he just finds a way to get himself into every series.
Hey,
I
why
won't be
not?
surprised if he finds a way on Discovery.
Yeah. Has he done anything with Prodigy? He hasn't done anything on Prodigy, has he?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, yeah, I should say not yet. But yeah, the cartoon version of Frakes is some of my favorites.
I love him on Lower Decks.
Oh, God, yeah.
My favorite episode so far is anyone that has Riker in it.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of they see the koala before they ascend, and Boimler almost dies there in that one episode, and come as soon as he wakes up, he's like, I saw a koala.
Lower Decks is such a gem. Like the people they've got writing for those episodes are, I mention it a lot in the reviews that I do on my Instagram. Two things I always mention about the writers. One, they've got some real hardcore Star Trek nerds writing those scripts. Definitely. Because the amount of Easter eggs they hide in there, the amount of references, they're all gold. Some of them are super obscure. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, I feel like they've probably got a few veterans on the writing team also, because the way they portray the Lower Decks, the lower ranking people on a starship, it's just like getting deja vu. That's exactly what it was like as a lower ranking individual in the military. It's like you have all these views, you have all these things that just happen to you, and you have to figure out what to do with it, while everyone in the master sergeants and the captains and the colonels are just sitting up there in their ivory pedestal, forgetting where they came from.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gosh, you're absolutely right. What branch were you? I heard you mention sailor. Were you Navy?
Oh no, I was in the Air Force.
You were Air Force? Okay.
There's just mentioned that I sometimes have a sailor's mouth that I try to rein it in, because I'm a civilian now, so I can't be talking that way.
What was your service experience like? How old? Do you mind me asking how old you are?
I am 28, and I'll be 29 this year.
Nice. Yeah, it's 9/11 happened my senior year of high school. I'm 38, and I think, I know a lot of guys I went to school with, their post high school plans changed that day for sure. Mm-hmm. But I was wondering if you were in that group, but it seems like that was a little afterwards.
Well, after I joined in 2012, November of 2012 is when I shipped off to Texas for training. Mm. And I will say, though, I was old enough to remember 9/11, and that was part of the reasons that made me want to join. So I didn't join the military on a whim. I wanted to do it ever since I was like 8 years old. I didn't know when I wanted to do it or what branch I wanted to do. I initially wanted to do Marines, but I changed that because my parents wouldn't stop crying.
Oh, really?
Essentially, I exaggerate a little bit, but they weren't having it. They were just like, no, you're going to do the Air Force. I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Because I was young child who wanted to be challenged by everything, and I didn't want to do the Air Force because I felt they had the easiest basic training.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, my dad was a Marine. Was a Marine in Vietnam, actually. So when I expressed interest of like, hey, I might, I think I might go into, and he shut it down immediately. He's just like, if they want you, they'll come get you. I was like, okay, all right, fine.
That's the attitude I've adopted after my experience with the military, though.
Yeah.
Like, not for my kids. It's
I
like to describe it as the most fun I never want to have again.
I was gonna say that you just described my police academy experience.
Oh, so you did the police academy?
Yeah, I was law enforcement for better part of a decade. And now I'm no longer in my 20s. I have nothing to prove. I went back to school, and now I work at a law firm. I'm a paralegal.
Same here for most of my reasons. I came out of basic training blue as blue could be, with the bluest blood you could possibly have getting out of the Air Force. It's just like, I'm here serving my country. I joined for all the right reasons. And then you go to your first base, and then you start to learn how disposable you are to your command and how little they care about you. And after 6 years of working in a job where you sign a contract that literally says, I will give you up to and including my life to complete my duties and my mission and all that stuff, and then realize that you don't hold any value at all to the people who are sending you to your possible death, you don't want to keep doing it. It really wears on your mental health. Like, I was waking up every day angry. Like, I woke up angry, and I knew that was not where I wanted to be. So I decided to get out.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's tough, especially, in the wake of, pandemic and all that, where we've seen the great, the great layoff, but also the great resignation of people. Just, no, I'm not spending my life like this. I'm not going to do it anymore. A lot of people are waking up to that.
And I think it's a great thing, honestly. Like, I know the labor shortage feels bad right now, and it sucks when you try to go to McDonald's and the dining room's closed because there's no staffing, or your store isn't as stocked as it usually is because there's no staffing. But in the long run, I think it's good because people are finally standing up for themselves and what they're worth, and they're telling people that I'm not going to continue to work for less than what I'm worth.
Yeah.
And until you get that idea, we're not coming to work. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. I recently spoke with Kevin C. Neese from the Gospel According to Star Trek, and his opinion was very much that his work and his stance, it would be very easy to get really preachy in that position. But his thing is that it's humanity, like the humanist side, striving to be better than we think we can, or reaching for that next level, or just, and in all aspects. And I thought it was interesting that, because military service, again, is, as it appears to a civilian, seems to be like, you really have to have a passion, a calling, the call of duty, as it were. You really got to get that to sign up, it seems like. And it's interesting to me that, something with such a personal connection, like, armed services, that the great resignation touches that too, of people who are just over it. And it's sad to, like I said, my father's a veteran, and I know with all of his health problems and all that stuff, he actually probably had a better deal than most of the folks he served with. Just Vietnam was so hard on people, in many different respects, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of those, and it affected so many people. And I think one of the things that a lot, sadly, but understandably, one of the things people turn to, like Paul does, addiction, or it's not always addiction. It may become addiction, but sometimes it's self-medication, due to.
I was in that spot in the military too. Like,
Oh, yeah?
I got addicted to cigarettes when I was in, just because it needed anything to relieve the stress temporarily.
Yeah.
Even if it was for only 5 minutes, because you've got so much on your mind and you need to clear it in whatever way possible.
Yeah.
And honestly, my viewpoint now is just like, if you end your watch alive, you ended it better than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because particularly today, Memorial Day is a tough day for me, because I have a couple friends that I lost while I was in. And I every time this day comes around, it's difficult for me to remember them. That just to think that they only made it to 19 years old before
Jeez,
they didn't come home anymore. So it's hard.
man. Well,
I
again,
count myself as one of the lucky ones.
yeah. Again, thank you. And gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's such a wild thing to think. Again, it's apples and oranges. It's worlds apart from the military. But I told somebody, hey, did you hear? Ray Liotta died, and like, really? And I'm like, well, how did he go? It's that nowadays, especially with entertainers, you think addiction. They found him with a needle hanging out of his arm, or got plastered again, wrapped his car around a tree, whatever it is. And they're just like, no, in his sleep, 67. It's like 67. He was in great shape. Like, oh, you can just go at any time.
have a bad night.
Yeah.
But
Oh man. But yeah, talking about addiction, and we actually talked a lot about the desperation of Archer throughout season 3, based on the events of the season 2 finale, where the Zindi, cut a new Grand Canyon in Florida.
yeah,
We see Archer become very desperate. And
this is like the peak of his desperation.
yeah, in addition to what it makes, I guess what we're seeing in Archer is more desperation turning into taking those character flaws and just making them full cracks in his character, or even a break, him turning on these poor people who are just trying to get home and like, give us your warp coil or else.
It's hard to say, but it's hard to say what decision you would make in that situation. But
Mhm.
honestly, as bad as it sounds, I feel like I probably would have made the same decision.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
like, I would feel bad for the ship of people who are just trying to get home, but you're extending their travel home, but it's likely they'll probably make it home.
Yeah.
Where if you don't get a warp coil, your entire planet is in danger. And
Uh-huh.
I have a lot more of a connection with the people on that planet than I do with the people on that ship.
Yeah. It's a tough call to make.
Both wrong decisions, but
Yeah, both wrong, both right. It's oh man, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
favorite
you know,
episode.
yeah, exactly. Well, looking at what Archer has to do, you would think that would turn him to addiction. I mean, we're seeing his character flaws manifest themselves in other ways, but it's so wild to think that, I believe, in order to inoculate herself so that Enterprise can use the minerals in their hull and their shields. This is so wild. Have you dealt? I mean, outside of being addicted to cigarettes, there's, first of all, there's tons of things you can be addicted to.
Yeah.
But how was it dealing with your own addiction? Because I count myself extremely lucky that I don't think I have any addiction demons hanging in my closet or anything like that. But what was it like for you to deal with that addiction?
It's very difficult. And honestly, I should probably rewatch this episode since I've worked on quitting, because at the time I watched it, I wasn't addicted yet. So maybe I would be able to sympathize more with Paul. But trying to quit something like cigarettes, well, it's very, very, very hard. It's annoying when you feel like you have so much autonomy over your life, but then you've got this little thing in the back of your head that in reality he's the boss. Like, he tells you what you're going to do, and it gets to the point where your whole life revolves around satisfying that little voice who is in charge of you now. Because if you try to quit, you'll get angry, you'll lose your temper, you get the shakes, you get sweaty, you can't focus on your tasks because all you can think about is when are you going to get your next smoke, when are you going to get your next little high, so that you can get back to normal, satisfy the voice, tell them to leave you alone for a little bit.
Mm.
And it gets to the point where you start sacrificing things that any normal person wouldn't sacrifice in order to get it. You go into debt, you smoke places that you shouldn't because you need to do it. I got in a lot of trouble when I was in the military because there was a typhoon going on outside.
Mhm.
So we weren't allowed to go outside, and it was lasting for like 3 days. And I hadn't had a smoke, and we weren't allowed to smoke inside. So I went to the outside stairwell on the 4th floor of my building, and I had a smoke, and I got caught by one of my sergeants.
Oh,
And I got in a lot of trouble for it. But it was like it had been 3 days without satisfying the little addiction monster, and I had to do something. So I did something that I, under normal circumstances, never would have done.
mm.
And you go into debt over it, just trying to set, like, I was up to 2 packs a day before I finally decided that I'm not going to be able to quit on my own. So I decided to take Chantix, and it worked. But sometimes I wish I wouldn't have taken it because it came with some other lasting side effects that are hard to deal with. But
Oh, wow. Yeah, geez Louise. I have, aside from your own addiction, have you ever had to deal with anybody? When I was working in the county jail, I recall going through intake one time, and there was somebody who was detoxing and just sitting in a chair, just shaking. And I had grabbed a sergeant and was like, and they're like, they're detoxing. And I was like, so that's good, but do we do anything else? We're not
there's
medical
nothing you can
professionals.
do for someone that's in that situation.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
just got to ride it out.
Yeah. Did you have to deal with that in anybody else? We don't have to go into specifics or anything, but have you ever dealt with anything like that prior to your addiction or after? I mean, once an addict is always an addict, but like, post quitting, I should say.
Fortunately, no, I haven't had to deal with anybody where I was going to be their person helping them through it. I don't know how good I would be at it myself. If I ever do have someone in my life that needs it, I of course will help them. But
yes.
Fortunate enough, I haven't had to do that just yet. I did have a little bit of a relapse on my smoking during the pandemic, just because I thought I knew stress before.
Oh yeah,
in my house for a month.
right. It's I don't know if you lost anybody. I lost a couple friends to the pandemic. Oh, well, I say to the pandemic. Yeah, I guess it is to the pandemic. It's one of my friends actually got it, and it just took him, and that was that. He was gone. Another one is a friend of mine who she took her own life in quarantine. She just couldn't handle it, so she tapped out. And it was so wild. I occasionally am reminded, and I'll think about her for a second, and it's just so weird. There's no telling what anybody's breaking point is, and I think it's interesting to see. T'Pol forcing herself into that position, whereas Archer is kind of put in that position where he essentially goes over there and gets the snot knocked out of him, in an interrogation. But it's so wild to see the choices being made. And, Archer's been one to not make some good decisions here and there. But it's interesting to see where,
the whole genocide argument.
Yeah. And there's this I lost my thought. I had a thought. No, that thought is gone from me. But yeah, just seeing what he is come through, and the decision to, okay, here, it's like when the punch is coming, it's just like, okay, this is going to be what it's going to be. Let's just get through it.
I mean, like, in the end, it's kind of what he asked for. He wanted to be the captain of this first Warp 5 starship, so he had to know that he would run into stuff like this.
Yeah, and
Probably not to this scale, but
yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, let's this episode is really pretty fantastic. It's I wish I'd watched them closer together with Azadi Prime to get the full effect of the 2-part teleplay, but it really is great. But as with everything, somebody dropped the ball somewhere. Maybe not, but let's get to our section we have lovingly titled Who Do We Blame? This episode was written by Phyllis Strong, whose last work was season 3, episode 6, Exile, which is directed by Roxanne Dawson, aka Belana Torres. And then we've got we actually discussed that episode with podcaster Drew Burris back on episode 51. And then this episode is directed by James L. Conway, whose last work on the series was season 2, episode 19, Judgment, which we discussed with attorney Alex Kornfeld back on episode 41. The guest stars we've got, these are familiar faces if you've been watching along with us, or if you know season 3, these folks are all throughout season 3. Randy Oglesby as Degra, Scott McDonald as Commander Dolam, the unkillable Tucker Smallwood as the Zindi Primate, Rick Worthy as Jannar, but we've got Casey Biggs here as the Illyrian captain. He started his career in the late 1970s on a series called Flying High, and then he's got some TV credits here that I'll just hit. We got the pilot episode of The Equalizer in 1985, and various episodes of Matlock, General Hospital, Jake and the Fat Man, Murder, She Wrote. But his first appearance in the franchise is actually Deep Space Nine, season 4, episode 14, Return to Grace. That was his first of 23, I believe, 23 appearances in Deep Space Nine as Damar. But that first appearance from 1996 is a fun one. If you're a fan of Deep Space Nine, I'm sure that holds a special place in your heart. So, Dan, let me ask you, this is the important question. Well, first of all, before we get to our final question, let me ask you this very important question. Do you have faith of the heart?
I do. And unlike so many people in the Star Trek community, I like the Star Trek Enterprise intro song. They were doing something different. I think it's a bop. I like it.
Nice. Yeah. I've had so many discussions about Faith of the Heart, that theme song, and trying to see, because there's people that absolutely loathe its existence, but then there's other people, and I think I'm slowly becoming one of them, where it's like, actually, it's a kind of an earworm. It's pretty great. I really actually kind of enjoy it. But I always have to specify, hey, I like season 1 and 2, Faith of the Heart. Season 3 and 4 with the added drum beat, I'm not down for all that for you kids and all that drum beats.
I actually didn't know that there was a different version. By the time I got to season 3, I was at the point where it's like, okay, skip the intro. Let's get on with the show.
Right. Well,
I'll have to look into that, see which one I like better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this episode, we talked about its importance to the characters obviously within it, but to the overall narrative. So Dan, let me ask you the question we've been asking everybody here more recently: is this essential viewing? Is this essential for someone who's sitting down and working their way through the franchise in chronological order, just like we are here? Is this one that they can't skip?
No, they can't skip this one. This is a very important episode in Enterprise. It is a incredible turning point in Captain Archer's character, and everything that happens to him beyond this point, I think, can lend itself to what happens to him in this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is definitely, if you're invested in Enterprise, into season 3. Like if the episodic thing is, is what you're down for, you can pretty much just stick with season 2. But if you're into season 3, yeah, you can't skip this one, man. There's no way. This is so crucial to the plot. Not to mention, I think this is a big turning point for Archer. This is the goal. This is what he's been trying to reach this entire season. And it's held such a personal, there's such a personal level of commitment in this mission for him. His best friend having lost a sister, this is really important to Archer.
Mentioned there's a almost palpable sense of loss for his character.
Yeah,
because you can tell that once he makes that decision, there's a version of himself that he thought he was that he had to kill to make that decision. And that version doesn't exist anymore after this episode.
Yeah. I was talking on a earlier episode. It's interesting to see the decisions being made by Archer here and what that has down the road for other characters in the franchise. How will they be viewed? How will the crew of the Enterprise be viewed? I mean, we see Will Riker go into the holodeck and consult them, so he obviously has respect. Or is he the outlier? Like, are they largely despised for some of the things that they had to do during their time out there? But
it's like amazing what time can do. Like between when Archer happens and when Archer's making his decisions and when Riker's making his, it's a lot of time between them, and decisions that in the moment seemed like the right thing to do, that sometimes time isn't on your side. And when you look back on it and you're like, oh, I benefited a lot from that person's horrible decision, but it was a horrible decision.
Right. Yeah. Well,
today we would never do that. Today it's not a good decision to make.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, do you have any final thoughts? Any final thoughts about this episode or the two-parter? Any final thoughts about the series as a whole? Any thoughts about the franchise as a whole? Any thoughts about your first podcasting experience?
Oh,
you've done great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been nervous the whole time.
No, you're doing great, man.
Overall, very positive towards the series. Like, I think it was done well enough. It could have been better. It had a great concept. The last season is definitely where it gets disappointing, but because you could tell that like they probably got the word that they were going to get canceled, so they were trying to ram as much as they could into it to try to finish up the story in a satisfying way, and then they do the cop out with the finale, which I'm not going to spoil, but in general, I liked the series. I don't think there's a Star Trek series I don't like that includes Discovery. Discovery is not my favorite, but I don't hate it.
Honestly, that's probably the kindest way anybody has ever said that.
I mean, it's a good series. Like, it's a lot darker than I would like for a Star Trek series, but if you try to just take it as it is for what it is, it's a good show. There's some good storytelling going on there. I haven't finished season 4 yet, but I'm watched the first couple episodes, and it's kind of exciting where they're taking it. I need to finish it off so I can see how it ends for this season. But final thoughts, I guess, as far as the franchise as a whole. If you're new to the series, watch it all so that you can get the Voyager. Voyager's the best one. Captain Janeway will be your next waifu.
Let me ask you this. You bring up an interesting point. I saw on Twitter the other day, somebody was asking a question of where's the best place to start watching Star Trek. Do you think it's kind of like Doctor Who in that basically the beginning of a new series is always a good jumping on point? Or do you think you have to watch something, have to watch it in any one particular order?
You can really start anywhere and enjoy any Star Trek series that you jump into.
Yeah.
However, I would say for optimal viewing experience, you should start with TNG simply because that's where they really start caring about the world building for
Yeah.
the series.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right about that.
Because the first episode of Voyager is going to fall on deaf ears if you don't know about the warp limitations from TNG
Mhm.
or the Maquis from DS9 or I'm failing for other examples, but those are the two biggest ones. The first episode of Voyager is going to make very little sense to you if you don't know about the Maquis or
Right.
the warp drive damaging subspace.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Well, next week, we will begin examining one particular fan's Star Trek inspired first efforts, subsequent work within the franchise, and the development of their current successful sci-fi series. This individual, while not a comedian, has definitely helped shape the comedic landscape. And I'm really excited for the discussions we'll have about the life and work of Mr. Seth MacFarlane, who and who better to discuss these things with than our very dear friend, Trekker and podcaster from Cosmic Crit and the More You Nerd podcast. We'll be joined next week by Mr. Drew Burris for our next Cast as Crew group of episodes in our coverage of Enterprise Season 3, Episode 20, The Forgotten, and Episode 21, E Squared, and little extra homework for all of you out there. Seth MacFarlane's Star Trek fan film, the one he made when he was just a wee lad, which is available for free on YouTube. The Forgotten and E Squared, of course, are available exclusively on Paramount Plus. Captain Dan, tell everybody more good things about your pins and how they're made, what brought this all to be, and where can they go and support you?
It's just like I said at the beginning, a little passion project of mine. I've always been kind of an artistic person and a bit enterprising. Pun intended. So I wanted to have a little business of my own, and my pins allow me to have a outlet for my creativity, and making fan-made fan art is honestly very fulfilling. Even though I'm still relatively small, I haven't even come close to making a profit off of my business. It's very much a
while, man. It
labor of love right now. But recently I did a Kickstarter to finish off my Lower Decks inspired series, and that went pretty well. I just got those pins a couple days ago, actually, and I'm grading them right now to get all the good ones to send them off to my backers. But that one includes Tendi, and everyone's very excited for her. as I love Tendi.
So she's so great. Yeah.
But where you can find my pins, I sell exclusively on Etsy at captaindanpins.etsy.com. As much as I don't like selling on Etsy because of if you follow my Instagram, you know that I participated in the Etsy strike because they decided to raise the rates that they take from artists even after their record smashing year. Like if you look at their profits, it literally has a little bit of a flat line and it skyrockets to like 10 times what it was when 2020 started. It's a little ridiculous, but
wow.
But yep, Etsy is where you can get them.
Nice. And I am at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in 10 Forward.
Us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. Hashtag LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
That's it, man. That's the show.
Ooh. Oh shoot! I probably should have mentioned my Instagram, but
Go ahead and mention it now, I'll edit it in.
okay. And of course, you can also find me on Instagram at Captain Dan Pins, and I'm also starting a TikTok, which I'm starting to gain a little bit of traction on. It's also at Captain Dan Pins. Going to be posting some cool stuff on there, as well as going to be starting a new series I'm calling 10 Forward Tuesdays, where we're going to be going through the official Star Trek cocktail book and making all the cocktails inside it.
Oh, I actually just got that book like a few weeks ago. I just added it to my collection, and I'm excited for that. I'll have to check that out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll edit that in. Oh man, this is great, man. You did really well. Congratulations on your first podcast experience. I hope you'll come back or seek out some other podcasts, man, because like I said, it's a fairly open community, and the podcasters, if you keep your ear to the ground, the ground being social media, every now and then they're just like, hey, we're looking for guests to come on the show. I've done enough cross promotion type things with other podcasts to know most of the time all you have to do is ask. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yes, I need somebody to be on my show. Thank you for giving me an option.
Yeah. And it's kind of, we hope to we obviously hope to bring you some business, and and we're excited that maybe some of your folks will find us a podcast they can easily access and follow along with, man.
I know. I love the community. Like I got a whole bunch of followers from one person. Her name is do you follow Deep Space Leftist on Instagram?
Yeah.
She did a giveaway and included me as one of the pins she was giving away, and I got like 100 followers from her little thing, and I was just like, okay. So I gave her a very special discount code that only she's allowed to use at my shop. It gets her like a good amount off.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, I mean, that's great. And I mean, most of the podcasters know, I mean, it's such the podcasting, much like I imagine, pins and crafting of any kind. It's a very DIY, like, hey, I'm just learning. I'm just here to make this thing and have fun. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of exchange of ideas and exchange of techniques and things like that. So my experience, with dealing with the community, because I mean, I've liked Star Trek since I was a kid, and it was only, much like a lot of other people, it took a pandemic for me to pull the trigger on a show. But yeah, I've had an absolute blast with it. And I think I've only ever encountered one person who was of a smaller in characteristics, we'll say. They were a butt. They were a butt, Dan. But yeah, it's a great community, and I do enjoy interacting with other like-minded nerds. Yeah, that's my people. So yeah, I think if you're looking to grow your business a little bit, I think it'd probably be worth your while to reach out to a couple of other podcasts. Or if you want me to send you a short list, I can rattle off a few that would almost certainly have you on to promote your stuff and do whatever. So
Well, that'd be great. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Thanks again for having me on and being my first podcast experience. It was nerve-wracking, but a lot of fun.
Good. I'm so glad, man. And seriously, if you in your continued watching of the franchise, if you stumble across an episode you want to talk about, just shoot me a message, man. We'll see if we can't get that on the calendar and we'll make it happen.
All right.
Well, it's nice to meet you. And thank you so much. And I'll let you know when the episode's about to drop. It's probably going to be about a month before it'll see the light of day. But I'll let you know, and that way you can share it through your channels and all that good stuff. And we'll see what happens, man.
Oh, well, thanks again for having me. You have a good night.
Thanks. You too. Take care, man.
Take care. Live long and prosper.
Hey, same. Take care, bud.